Howdy. This is my third discussion with you about the murder of JonBenet Ramsey, who died on Christmas Day, most likely, in 1996. So on the 6th of August last year, JonBenet would have turned 30 years old. So it is a vintage true crime case, and it's one that, just like the McCanns, it has captivated the world. And there are similarities with whispers of a whole lot of corruption, a lot of confusion, and a lot of unanswered questions. So what I'm not trying to do here is lay out a timeline or tell you answers to questions about the case or give you definitive responses to some of the questions that seem to remain open about the case. What I'm just doing is talking about aspects of the case that when I think about JonBenet, when I think about her family, when I think about all that revolves around her and her murder, I'm thinking about the things that just tick over in my head and the things that I want answers for. And maybe they're the aspects that interest you or irk you or confound you or make you angry like they do me. Much is made of I think it was CBS documentary, two-parter, I think, where the group of, forensic pathologists and other types of experts analysed the case, rebuilt some of the scene in a warehouse. So they rebuilt to scale, the basement, the kitchen, etc. And they analysed, autopsy results and things like that. And they came to the conclusion that a mag light torch that was found at the home on the kitchen bench was the murder weapon, that Burke possibly hit JonBenet over the head with this mag light because she stole pineapple out of his dish, and subsequently John and Patsy Ramsey covered up for their son. When you look at the autopsy pictures, you'll find that the peeled back skull of JonBenet, sorry, this is going to be I'm just going to be very blunt. I'm not going to pussyfoot around some really harsh topics like sexual abuse, incest, and autopsy imagery, because that's not getting us anywhere if we really want to discuss this case and some of the really important factors. So tune out now if you don't want to hear it. I'm not trying to offend anybody or be sensationalistic or anything like that. This is just how I am. That CBS documentary, rather than show you the image of JonBenet's peeled back skull, showed you a drawing. And it was a neat little drawing. And gee, I wish I'd brought a pen. Hold on a minute. The magic of pause. So, 15 seconds later, this is the shape that they drew. So they gave you a diagram. And this is the shape that they drew, showing the wound, the broken skull fracture on JonBenet's skull. So here, back here. And it would have had the crack line going back down toward the base of her skull, going down here. Now they've drawn that diagram, and now, okay, sure, they're saying, can you see how the rim of the mag light would fit perfectly? Well, do you recall that I then yesterday, because I didn't have a softball bat on me, I showed you this little glass vase because it kind of emulates a softball shape, doesn't it? With this piece here being the stop on the grip of the softball. And you've got a round shape here, which would be something similar to the mag light, except it would have sharp edges and less, it's hard to describe, but anyway, what I'm going to show you is my drawing. I just drawn out a little drawing of what the actual wound or the fracture looks like. Okay, this is all black. This is actually all black filled in here, and it's actually a very curved shape on both sides, oval, and the ends are oval, and then on part of it there's sort of damage, you know, distress damage, dents in the skull there as well. This is actually reversing it back, you know, and then the zigzag going back down JonBenet's skull. This is actually reversed, but so it doesn't look quite right, but it, to me, it's more like the end of a softball bat. It's not actually shaped like this. The curve comes around on both sides, and this is curved. It's actually like this. It's like a just this, what do you call it? I don't know, oblong shape. Okay, and I think that is a little bit deceptive of CBS producers, or the people that drew that diagram, those experts, because they see the torch there, and that's very convenient. But you know, the torch is just pretty out of place. Maybe someone wanted to place the torch there. Okay, but to me it looks more like a softball bat. It's just all I'm trying to say. Now, I don't know who wielded that, but I think a 9-year-old boy who's a foot taller than his little sister, you know, that kinetic energy of the bat, you know, coming down, could certainly have enough power to hit a child and fracture her skull like that. But you know, obviously an adult could easily do that as well. Now, other things the autopsy shows is the little heart drawn on the interior side of JonBenet's left hand. She had a little latticework ring on her right finger here, on her middle finger. She was wearing her gold chain with a gold cross, which was to the side. The cord around her neck with lots of abrasions, bruising, no actual blood coming through the skin. The paint brush used for the grot was about 9 inches long, with the white cord not tied haste, but you know, tied around and around and around. She had little blue ribbons in her hair, and she was bruised. She had prong marks, like quite a severe mark on the right side of on the side of her face and on her body. I'm going to talk about the life-size doll. I'm going to talk about incest, child-on-child abuse, and that sort of thing. So I don't want to be disrespectful to JonBenet, but if these things can't be discussed, how can people realize what she went through, what might have happened, you know, I'm going to talk about child sexual development a little bit. I'm not saying I know very much about this, but something that has been happening as this modern era, you know, as we've gone through sort of, say, the last century, you know, children, as they grow up and as they develop, you know, should be allowed to discover their own sexuality as they grow, and different things happen at different ages, and, you know, different experiences that they have mold their sexuality. And more people, children, teenagers, adults, you know, developing these days, I think, are developing sexual kink, things that, you know, for arousal, it's not purely about the idea of a man and a woman. Don't come for me, people, about LGBT. This is nothing about that. I don't care if you're queer. This is just for the sake of, I need to be able to talk to you about this in this way. Simple, okay? You know, when you're growing up in a village and you're living in small huts, or you're growing up in homes that are small and they're not more than your family actually needs to live, and they're easy to make and they don't use a lot of resources, and you're just getting on with life and you're living together as a family, children are being mirrored the relationship of adults, the sexual relationship of adults, which for the most part would be a man and a woman having sex. And somehow in this day and age, not only has this become shameful, or it's something that's hidden from children perhaps, but during their development, rather than children seeing and just knowing or understanding about sex between a man and a woman, and then possibly having that as something that goes along with their sexual awakening and drives their urge to meet a partner and have sexual relationships, you know, they might be having sexual development based on things where their arousal is in conjunction with things that aren't men and women having sex. Do you see what I'm saying? You know, and there's more kink. So, you know, and more fetish and more, you know, unusual type behavior. And there's more, you know, there's people that are, you know, maybe not exposed, you know, to a man and woman sexual relationships, and then maybe they're not talked to in an open manner, and maybe they're not educated. Maybe they're not educated because their parents are shamed by it, or just don't see the need, or don't understand the need. Maybe, just like in the Ramsey household, there are parents on one floor of a large home and children are down on another floor of a large home, and you're not, you know, it's just not a normal thing for parents to be, you know, for sex to be happening and occurring and just seen as no big deal and just normal. Not saying that, you know, people go around having sexual intercourse in front of children on purpose, and not saying that sometimes this isn't damaging either. And when I talk about that, in that regard, I'm meaning, you know, cult behavior. But I think you understand what I'm talking about here and trying to say. Okay, so now I'll lead you to, now I'll talk about an incident from my childhood. So neighbours new to the area, they were actually from Australia, There's a son and a daughter and the parents. And I was hanging out with the son and daughter at their home, and in their lounge room, spontaneously, I don't know why, they went under a sheet, and the little boy who was 9 had an engorged penis, and the little girl, I mean, they were acting out seemingly, I don't know, they were just showing me that, you know, the sex act. But it didn't seem kinky or anything like that. Now, in hindsight, I haven't actually analysed this with my adult modern mind. I've sometimes thought, oh, is this because they are being abused and they know about this? But, you know, as I've, you know, gone through life, and I'm maybe more knowledgeable, more open-minded, or more understanding, I don't know. Maybe if I thought about this now, would I think, well, is this mirroring? Is this just mirroring of the sex act between their parents? Because it was pretty standard. So I don't know if red flags should be going off because the young boy was aroused, because it was between a sister and a brother. I'm not sure. Where is this leading now? Okay, this is more things to think about in terms of the Ramsey household. Why? Because JonBenet did have vaginal abrasions. Could this be from digital manipulation or self-abuse? Could this be from others abusing? Could this be from objects? And how and why? Okay, because it seems to have been ongoing. There were healed wounds. It seems to have been with something rough. And, you know, when you tie this in with her yeast infections, with her urinary tract infections, the recurring visits to the doctor for these issues, what does this mean? Does this mean that there was sexual abuse? Does this mean that there was just natural sexual exploration? If it was abuse, was it by her brother? Was it intentional abuse? Was it by her father? Was it punishment from her mother? Okay, all of these things are possible. Was it someone outside of the family? Because many people had access to JonBenet. Many people knew where JonBenet lived. Many people saw JonBenet as a sexual creature. Was JonBenet being abused? Okay. For how long, if so? Was it punishment? Was it generational systemic abuse? Is this why all of John Ramsey's children were bedwetters? Why do people wet the bed? Is it because they want to keep an abuser away? They want to make a disgusting scene? Would they rather be punished and keeping people at bay than abused? The scat could be the same sort of thing, scat and urine, to keep someone away. Or was it because Burke did hate and despise JonBenet and he wanted to damage her things? But you know, why was JonBenet sometimes sleeping in Burke's room? Would she do that if he was hurting her or hated her? You know, there are some very strange dynamics that we don't understand here. And that we need to understand. We need to understand. But is Burke ever going to talk? Is it that he can't talk because his father is alive? Is one of them threatening the other? Are they a team still? I don't know. You know, JonBenet was subjected to a lot by Patsy Ramsey. We can't deny this. You know, JonBenet had naturally lovely dark blonde hair or dirty blonde hair. Would JonBenet herself not feel pretty just because her hair is not bright corn silk blonde? She endured hours of dyeing and toning of that hair to get that beautiful blonde colour that you see, that she had when she was 5 and 6. You know, she was naturally just a nice dirty blonde. Possibly she would have gotten highlights from the sun during summer months. Possibly when she got older, it certainly would have been easy as her choice to go lighter blonde, because she's a natural dark blonde. But it was possible her hair was going to end up, you know, brown. And her hair was not natural. Now, what 6-year-old child wants to sit for hours and be bleached with chemicals like that? I mean, I don't know. I certainly enjoyed having chemicals put in my hair because I wanted to have permed pigtails. In gymnastics, you couldn't have hair down over your shoulders. I wanted so that I could have my pony pigtails and they would be up. I must have been quite indulged by my father, actually, because he took me to get a perm. It was $40. And what did they do? They didn't suggest just perming my hair. They actually did perm my pigtails for me. So yes, I went to the hairdresser and I sat with chemicals in my hair. That was my choice. So I think there's a difference when it's your choice, your request, and you're indulged. $40, let me tell you, was a fucket load of money then, and particularly for my family. I feel awful about that now. I really do. But there you go. So you've got a girl that really is used by her mother. Okay, so I think the recreating of Patsy's costumes, I mean, is this just using inspiration? Is it inspiration, or is it recreation? And is there an underlying sinisterness to this? Because it's one thing to to make these cute cowgirl outfits, and another to recreate a woman's showgirl outfit. And it was in fact pretty much a replica of one that Patsy Ramsey wore, you know, in her Miss West Virginia pageant days. So what do you make of that? You know, how much of JonBenet's body was her own? You know, was it an act of rebellion when she would draw all over herself just before a pageant? So Ramsey, you know, would Patsy scrub her harshly to clean it off? Was she annoyed at the chore? Was she annoyed at her living doll doing this to herself? And, you know, that brings me to the doll. It's Australia. There's a fly. I don't know if you can hear it. You know, in the dark, could this life-size JonBenet doll be mistaken by another child for JonBenet? Would you poke it? Would you go to poke with a railway track? Which the CBS show, I think, did get right. I do indeed think that that is the railway connector pins that have made those sets, 2 sets of marks on JonBenet's body. Did he think it was the doll, and did he want to poke this doll? I don't know. Did he want to see if it was the real JonBenet? Was John Ramsey going to take JonBenet away on the plane, but even Mr. Slick himself couldn't get the pilot to somehow agree. You know, I think we've talked about with regards to other cases, I'm trying to think which ones, but you know, the flight itineraries, what do you have to, maybe it was this one, you know, you have to say who's on board, but you also have to weigh luggage. Now, if JonBenet is in rigor mortis and she's not going to suddenly snap out of that in half an hour, how is John going to get this body onto the plane? Because it wouldn't fit in the suitcase. So the ransom note, I don't think JonBenet's body was going to be found, and then I think they just sort of resigned themselves to the fact that she had to be found, perhaps. But I think, yeah, they were going to try and take her out of there. Maybe Patsy Ramsey was annoyed at this, and that's why she didn't rush to JonBenet's body when it was laid down in the hallway just outside of the lounge. Oh, you know, I don't think that it was so premeditated that the doll was somehow going to represent JonBenet on the plane or asleep. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Do you think JonBenet walked herself up the spiral stairs? Did Burke go up those same stairs? He wouldn't. He'd be going up the front stairs. His bedroom, you go up the front stairs, and his room is on that wing of the middle floor. JonBenet's was where the spiral stairs would go up to the second floor, where Patsy Ramsey would come down on those spiral steps from their mezzanine suite to come out near JonBenet's bedroom. So I'm still very unsure about this aspect too, because if JonBenet was carried up the stairs asleep by John, he probably just went up the front steps and then walked along. If JonBenet walked up herself, perhaps she walked up the spiral stairs. But you know, the layout of the home is that John and Patsy Ramsey had the whole of the top floor with John's office at one end, the bed positioned at another, and where the bed is, the front steps just go straight down from that area of the room down to the second floor near where Burke's room was, and then down again, and at the rear of that top floor where John's office was, the spiral stairs would go down and come out near JonBenet's room. So JonBenet and Burke both were on the floor below, and Burke was closest to the parents' bed and JonBenet was furthest. And it's interesting because, you know, in one of his interviews with a psychologist, when asked what he thought happens, he says, I think someone came very quietly and he took her and led her away, led her down, you know, led her down, you know, that spiral staircase, no doubt. Is too much being made of the pineapple? I don't know. Do I think Burke hit JonBenet over the head because of pineapple? No, but maybe he was placated. Maybe he did go down to play with his train set one last time. Maybe he thought he saw the doll lying there and poked it with railway tracks. And maybe the parents, when they realised that her body had been found where it was hidden. I mean, why would he be in that little basement room? I don't know. Was the light on? Did he go in to see why the light was on? And did they give him some pineapple? And an iced tea. I mean, what a ridiculous thing. I mean, was Patsy Ramsey always giving fluid to her children before bedtime when they are bedwetters? You just don't do it. There is a cut-off point. You know, maybe an hour and a half before bedtime, that's when they have their last drink, and then they go to the bathroom, and then they go to bed. You know, did she help her children succeed when it came to things like this? You know, this is very rambly, isn't it? It's probably going to cut off because it's gone over 30 minutes. There's so much actually I wanted to say. But, you know, what are you thinking about the abrasions? You know, the damage to JonBenet. Is this innocent exploration? Is this brutality from father, mother, or brother, or someone else, or JonBenet herself? Or is it just nothing? And do you think it's a torch, or do you think it's a baseball bat that could have then been thrown out the window? There was not only a scream heard, but I think there was actually a noise heard. Was this the baseball bat being thrown out the window? And where was that baseball bat? Was that up in someone's bedroom? And was it then just thrown out the window? JonBenet taken downstairs, grotted, left, discovered, and then the cover up? Yeah. Let me know what you think. See you later.